So, hello. Welcome back, everyone. We're talking again about unfinished quilts and what took so long. I have them, you have them, and I think that my neighbor has some too. So, stay tuned and let's talk about it. So, welcome back, everyone, to my channel. So, this is my story of my unfinished quilt. This quilt was started in 2013. It is a partial seam block. The brown square in the middle, you sew partial part of the seam and you sew these strips along little by little. If you want to see me make that block, let me know in the comments and I'll do that. But this quilt set for 13 years because I ran out of the colors that I had made for this quilt. I wanted to add more length and width again. That's my story. But I didn't have the colors. I pieced some flannel fabric to the back of this quilt, and I love it because it makes another quilt on the back. And I was given a lot of flannel fabric from my church, and there are some very here I go again, interesting patterns on the back for the flannel fabric that I have. So the first thing I did was to pick a complementary color, something that would complement the quilt, and I chose this pink striped fabric. It seems like this fabric was made for the inside of pillows, and it's pretty thick, and I like that about it, and I like the softness of the pink color. So I decided to go with a 5-inch width for my scallop border panels that I would make. And then I cut out some strips, and here I am joining those strips together and ironing out opening up my seams and ironing them out. The next thing I did was to make a template. I just took some regular paper and I got a bowl or something round, and I sort of figured out how to make this template. I took that template and I traced it along my border strips, and I have traced it along and cut it out. But I have my batting, my backing, and the top of the pink striped fabric, and then I cut it out and I turn it right sides out, and it is done. There is my border strip scallop border that I'm going to add to get me completed in this quilt. Okay. So the next thing I did, I wanted to quilt it, right? This is a border. It's like a quilt as you go. And we have our quilt sandwiches and we usually quilt them, right? So I'm adding this little curvy pattern in here. This is like a free form. It's not really something that I'm going to follow the lines per se, but just to get an idea. So I'm adding a little loop, and then I add another big loop on that, and then I follow that little stem and I add a loop, a small loop, and then a big loop. And that's what I did on all 4 panels, all along this little scallop border that I'm adding on here. That was really fun to do. It's nice when you get to change, maybe you're piecing and then or you're cutting, but it's nice to change and do something different as you're building your quilt. So it was fun doing this little quilting section here. And I wish I had have known 8 years ago that I could just find other colors and add it to the quilt to make it bigger. Maybe you're stuck. Maybe you're a new quilter. You didn't know that. You can, you don't have to let it sit. Well, the quilt sat for 8 years, and I noticed that the sides and the top of the quilt, it got stretched out. So if you're gonna add a border like this, you really do need to clip it, and you're gonna have to ease in the extra fabric that's since it's been stretched out. And then, like I said, it was a quilt as you go. So here you can see the binding is added to the back of it, and you can see my pieced flannel blocks on the back, which makes another quilt. You can turn it over. It's a double quilt, right? And it's finished. This is the front of the quilt. I'm happy it's done. I'm liking the colors. It looks like it was supposed to be, the pink scallop is supposed to just be with the quilt. But it's done. So I went to my neighbor's house and I asked her how she's coming along, and she has finished 4 of her quilts just by taking them out and laying them around so you can see them every day. When they're in the closets or boxes, we can't see them. So we can't start working on the idea of finishing them. So I hope this video is encouraging to you. And what good is it to keep making quilt blocks or quilt tops and we're not finishing them? So I hope you're encouraged to finish your quilt, to figure out ideas. Sometimes some quilts may have to be deconstructed. Maybe you have to break them down. But the majority of our quilts only need a binding or extra border, or maybe a block is crooked and to be finished, to get the quilt finished. So those are my little loop-de-loops that I added on the border. Now also, I had quilted some of my blocks in white thread, so I went over them with gray thread. So the quilt is quilted with a gray thread because I wanted the quilting design to stand out. And my bobbin thread is a white thread. So thanks for watching, and remember, these were quilts. This was my other quilt that I finished. These are unfinished quilts, or UFQs, that we have sitting around, and I hope this video has encouraged you to finish your unfinished quilts. And as I'm looking at the videos and I'm seeing this, I'm doing the happy dance because I'm happy that I got 3 quilts done. And you can go back and watch those videos if you haven't. So I'm gonna say bye-bye for now, and thanks for coming along on my journey of unfinished quilts. And I have more to come, so stay tuned.